So, morning from the meadow. We're down in Cornwall at the moment, and we are working on this old beast, which is a Bedford RL. Hell of a bit of a kit, this one. Timber tractor. About 6 years ago, we reconditioned the Bedford 500 diesel engine that's in it. So it's diesel and overpowered. It's got a booming great big Atlas crane on it. And basically what we're doing with this one, it's quite a rare beastie, is we are overhauling the braking system, seeing what faults have been, faults have come up with the braking system, just giving it an overhaul because she had the back brake seized on. She just needs a good old looking over. She's a real rare one. She's an air portable RL, so the whole of the cab roof lifts off, make it so that she fitted in the transport aircraft of the time. So she is quite a rare beast, and the cab on it is brilliant, to be honest. There's hardly any rust on it at all. It's a really solid cab. So we're just going to potter through a load of jobs. I'll keep you posted. I'll do lots of time lapse of the brake overhaul and such like. We're going to have all four wheels off and get inside each of the hubs, and then we're going to have a look at the master cylinder as well, because it seems to be leaking air. And we'll let you know how we get on. Hopefully she'll be fit as a fiddle and rolling by the time I leave Cornwall. All right, cheers guys. Thank you. Ta-da, bye. Right, so we pulled the hubs off, and half shaft's out. That's leaning up against the tyre. Open the brakes up. It looks really nice and clean in here. So our key ingredient that we're going to be inspecting today and servicing is this little bad boy here. So this is the hydraulic piston, and it has a roller actuator. I don't know whether you can see the rollers on there. There you go. You got rollers on there. And those rollers act on a cam on two pistons that go out like this. So in effect, there's no hydraulic fluid on the inside of the hub. It's all back here on the outside of the hub. So we're going to split this part as well. And inside here is a hydraulic seal, like a rubber seal. We're going to inspect that, clean it all up, make sure that our bleed nipple's clean, and re-copper slip it all, and then pop it all back together again if it's in a decent shape. Well, as you can see, everything is pretty gunked up with gacky grease. You got gacky grease inside the pistons. The actual seals don't look too scored. They look pretty good. I'm pretty sure we put new ones in, and I think the seals will be good. It's just the case that where the grease is solidified, you can see how minging it is. So we're going to give everything a clean up. We're going to give all these surfaces with this sticky grease a nice little emery paper with some 400 grit, and then we'll go finer than that, and get it all working nicely together. We'll put some silicone high temperature grease in there as well, and then we should be go. And then it'll be a repeat on the other side, readjust all the brakes up, and then hopefully we'll have a handbrake and a functioning rear brake. And then we'll get into the front axle, which is a similar setup, apart from you have a piston that's, instead of having a piston with one set of seals in that plunges this way and then converts the force outwards like that, you've actually got a double-ended piston which just straight out and in, straight out and in. That's what we've got in the front. But that, if this one's in this state, then the others will be in this state, and this is purely down to the fact that the grease that we put in there ages and it looks like we might have had a bit of water ingress behind the rubber boots as well. So we're going to give it a good old clean up and get it all serviceable again. Obviously double check the seals, which are, by the look of it, new, and we'll give them all a clean off and see what happens. Brilliant. Right, so this is another vital ingredient for mechanics. This is cake, and I'm going to eat it with my coffee. And if you want to keep a mechanic happy, cake, that's the one. So there we go. We got the brakes all assembled. What we're having to do now is start the engine up, get the air pressure up, let the handbrake off, so that this handbrake tie rod here moves towards me, sort of this direction, and then I can attach it to this. It saves pulling the pins out of the mushroom on the back, because it's all under tension. I've seen a lot of people do it that way. It's not the way to do it. So yeah, we'll get some air pressure up, and then get the handbrake reconnected, hub back on, adjust it up, and then we'll attack the other side and do exactly the same, overhaul everything, and then put it all back together again. And once we've done all 4 wheel stations, we'll bleed it up and then hopefully do the final adjustments, and we should be good to go. Cool. Okay, so sadly I got a little bit over keen and forgot to turn the camera on, but this wheel's all back together again. We've got a fully functioning handbrake now that's working quite nicely. Obviously there's no hydraulic fluid in it yet, but during the course of our playing about, we have found quite a few little things that were done by the previous owner on this that aren't right, which is kind of why I'm here, to rectify those. Let me talk you through them. So at the moment, Reg is taking the other wheel off so that we can do a repeat of what we've just done. But what we do have is we have an air leak coming out of this, which is the assistant servo for the master cylinder. There shouldn't be an air leak. And more interestingly is the plumbing on these reservoirs is round the wrong way. So this reservoir, and I know this because I've just done this on my MJ, this reservoir is supposed to feed the rear brakes, because it has a little pintle in it that allows, when you gently go onto the brake pedal, it brakes on the rear axle before it kicks into the front axle. So basically the way that this has been plumbed up is, there we go, this pipe here goes backwards, this pipe here goes forwards. Now they should be connected the other way round. So that's another thing that we have to look at. We are losing air pressure quite a lot as well, so we're going to have to pull the servo unit to pieces and see whether the diaphragm inside is damaged or whether there's a dump valve in there that's been sticky. We won't know until we open it up, because stupid me left the MJ manuals at home, and we've only got an RL manual, and the brake unit on this is definitely a much later Bedford. So that's another little thing that we have to sort out. But happy days so far. We've managed to free up all the handbrake linkage, and our handbrake actuator is working well. We definitely have a good functioning handbrake on one of the corners already, and these were seized on this morning, so we're making progress. Now time to overhaul this slave cylinder. So yeah, I'll keep you posted, and I'll try and do some better filming as well and turn the camera on. Right, so that's both the back brakes overhauled, handbrakes functioning as it should do now. So before I dive into the front brakes and start pulling them to pieces, I'm going to have a look at this master cylinder, because we definitely have a continuous air leak out of this, which we shouldn't be doing. We should be holding air. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to disconnect these two pipes, because they're round the wrong way anyway. Get rid of them, drain the fluid out of it, separate the master cylinder here. So I'll pull the master cylinder forward, inspect, see whether I've got any leaks coming out the back of the master cylinder into the air chamber. And then I'm going to take the air chamber off and split it with these bolts. Now inside here is a whacking great big spring. Right, so here we are. We've taken the air mushroom to pieces. It's basically, as you can see, it's a chamber. Goes together like this. What happens is the air goes in the back and it pushes this piston in and out. So the air comes where my hand is, comes into the casing through that pipe. Goes into the casing, so it pushes this piston backwards and forwards. That piston in turn operates on this massive spring and this shaft. So it pushes this shaft backwards and forwards, which then goes into the back of the master cylinder here and pushes that backwards and forwards. Now it's all got to be airtight. So there are a number of rubber rings on this. We are going to have to get a service kit for this one. Okay guys, so I've cleaned up the air assist and I'm just going to quickly show you what I've discovered. We discovered a broken O-ring, but here we go. This is why all modern vehicles have an air drying system on their air brakes. So if you look inside this pot, you can see where the air has condensated inside the pot and sat underneath the seals. You see the scoring marks? And that's basically where the compressed air has condensated, got under the rubbers, and it's pitted the surface. So I'm hoping, because this seal doesn't actually move, I'm hoping with some silicone grease and some fresh seals in it, we should get a pretty airtight seal on it. I mean, I don't mind losing a tiny bit of air, to be honest. There are tolerances that we can get away with. But at the moment, it's just dumping it straight out. As fast as the compressor makes it, it comes straight out again. So that's not what we want. So yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed, new seal kit will sort this one out. And then I'm just about to start pulling the master cylinder to pieces over there. And we'll see what state that's in. Brilliant. I'll make another film in a minute. Right, so I'm on splitting the master cylinder. And I'm just going to quickly show you a film of one of the massive rookie mistakes loads of people make when they're doing these Bedford master cylinders. Quite often, what we want to do is we actually want to get to the piston in here. Quite often, people just pull the piston out, but it's absolutely vital important that you move these little tilt valves first, because the bottom end of the tilt valve, which is where my finger is wobbling it, actually mates with one of the piston surfaces inside. And that what this does is actually it tilts the valve like this, which allows the fluid into the chamber. And then when the brake is depressed, the valve springs back and locks it to prevent the fluid from coming back into the reservoir. So it creates an airtight seal or fluid tight seal. And the amount of times I've been into Bedford master cylinders and people have just pulled them out and broken the ends of these little tilt valves, just broken them off inside the master cylinder, which ends up scoring the inside of the master cylinder. It's not a good move. And it also means that your master cylinder doesn't work. Basically, it just pushes fluid about rather than having a valve to block it off so that it can go into the system. So there you go. That is Bedford 101. Always remove, first stage of removing the master cylinder is to take the two reservoir pots off, and then underneath them, the two little spring valves. Because these spring valves, like I say, they're absolutely vital. They're really easy to damage. Don't do it, kids. All right, guys. Well, pull the rest of it to bits and I'll take some films in a minute. Okay, so here we go. We've pulled the master cylinder to pieces. If you have a look in there, there is a little bit of scoring. But in my experience, we'll probably get away with that, to be honest. And then the seals don't look too bad. Let's have a look. There's no splits in the seals or anything. And then if you hold it up, you can see that the seals have got shoulders on them. So that's absolutely ideal. That means we're going to get a good seal. You can see the shoulder just there. Oh, unfocus myself. So those seals look serviceable. And we should get away with putting this back together. But obviously, it's only half of the master cylinder components. The other half is our air assist, which we do need new seals on. So yeah, pretty chuffed with that. That's in pretty good serviceable nick. I reckon I can put that back together again and have a serviceable master cylinder there. So I'm going to crack on and do that, put it all back together again. Yeah, it's in pretty good shape. Cheers now. Right, master cylinder's reassembled, and I'm just going to show you how these little valves work. As you can see, they are tilted over to one side at the moment. So that means they're in the open position. That means fluid from the reservoir can flow into the master cylinder. Now, what I'm aiming to do is if I plunge the master cylinder and put it in action, you can see that those valves both centralise. Now, those in the centralised position, that stops the fluid from being pushed back into the reservoir. And then you come off the brakes and it opens the fluid from the reservoirs. Close the brakes, it shuts them off. They're like one-way valves, basically. There you go, that's how that works. Genius. Okay, so we're in the hubs. Biggest issue here is oil leakage. There's oily stuff all over the brake shoes. Look at that, it's glistening with oil, so I'm going to have to brake clean up all that lot off. So the oil seal is in the hub. That's the hub. This is the oil seal here. And behind it, that's the wheel bearing. So we just knock this seal out and pop a new seal in it because it's not seating very nicely. And as you can see inside, there's lots of oil inside the hub. That's no good because oil is a lubricant and it makes your brakes not work. So that's on the order list as well. This is all stuff that basically happens from standing about and not being used too much. Yeah, it's a bit of a shame, but it just needs doing. Let's get it back to square one and away we go then. Wicked. I will keep you posted. The slave cylinder itself looks pretty good. I'm going to give it a clean up and then we'll reassemble everything so I can take the other wheel off. But we'll only put a couple of wheel nuts on it, or 4 wheel nuts on it or something, just so that I can get to it all again, because we are definitely going to have to change that little oil seal in there. And also on this axle, we have a leak coming from this back plate oil seal here, which is a real ball ache, because if you want to do it properly, you split all this stub axle basically, so this whole piece of axle comes off. And then you do it as a oneer, or you do it the sort of the military stroke Land Rover enthusiast way, which is with the seal. You give the seal a little cut in the middle, a diagonal cut at the very top, and then all this becomes fresh seal. And it's a much quicker way rather than splitting the whole axle. It's kind of, I've seen it done as standard practice in loads of places. I don't like doing it. But I think splitting that stub axle, judging by the state of these nut heads, I mean, look at them. I think we could be asking for trouble there. We're probably better off just splitting the oil seal. We'll see what Reach says, because the difference is a considerable amount of hours work, basically. And if that one's leaking, I'm pretty sure that one's leaking. So I have a suspicion that he'll want to do it the quick way. Which is just as good, to be honest. As long as the split's at the top, it makes no odds. It might make my OCD jitter a little bit, but you know, it's not for me to say, really. It's not my lorry. Cool. Well, morning folks, here we are, day 3. So today's job, we're gonna remount the exhaust pipe. I'm cutting steel brackets because what I need to do is to adapt this air filter housing, which is what we've got. We've got that and an air filter over there, and we've got a blue pipe that comes out off the air filter intake, and I'm going to manufacture an external filter on the back of here. So it's a bit scrap heap challenge today. It's taking just a generic lorry filter and putting it on there somehow. It's all going to get mocked up and cable tied into place, so Jubilee clips will come later. So the update on our air pressure valve, this servo unit. So bad news really on that one. The repair kits aren't available. So we have 2 O-rings that have gone. So Reg is out at the moment trying to get 2 O-rings from one of the boat yards down in Falmouth, because they're most likely to have a seal that sort of size. Hopefully we'll get something, because the only option is a reconditioned one, which will cost a small fortune. But because the seals aren't available, the reconditioned ones have old seals in them. So I think we are better off doing some junglist massive mechanics here, some bush mechanics, finding something that works and putting it together and seeing whether it does. So yeah, it's we're thinking outside the box today, but we're getting there. I've had the slave cylinder off this side, and it's in great nick. It's spot on, no leaks. So that's all been cleaned up, re-greased, put back together. We need some brake cleaner to clean the oil off this, and then we should have on next day delivery a pair of hub seals for this front axle, so we can get the front axle back together again. We managed also to reposition this back copper brake pipe, so now it actually goes into the right position on the master cylinder. So we're going to need another pipe that's about 5 inches longer than what we had, and that will go back. And then yeah, pretty much it's all floating together quite nicely now. We should be in a position where we put it all back together tomorrow, bleed the brakes up, and then she's a running concern again, which is great news. I might actually, while we're waiting for some parts, I might have time to make myself, all the linkages are missing for the 4-wheel drive control. So this is your 4-wheel drive lever, selectable 2 and 4-wheel drive, and this is your high and low range lever. So I might well have enough time to jerry rig a couple of handles in the cab, so that you can change those things from the cab. But we'll see whether time is with us or not, because I'm hoping to be out of here by the end of tomorrow, because I've got another project back on the land to crack onto. But yeah, scrap heap challenge today, guys. Okay, so brilliant day. This slave cylinder was spot on, all cleaned up, all reassembled, waiting for oil seals tomorrow. So we got in there and put some bracing plates on and mounted the air filter. So it's a TM air filter, which is now on an RL, which is lovely. We've kept it Bedford. So at the moment, I've just recovered the tie rods for the high-low range and the 4-wheel drive, 2-wheel drive selector off the old RL, cleaned them up. And I'm in the process of manufacturing a bracket. So this is our bracket, and that bracket will sit inside the cross members of the chassis and attach our levers. Where are our levers? Here we go. These are recovered levers from the other vehicle as well. So these are our levers, our high-low levers. That'll all go together tomorrow morning. So yeah, made some good progress. Reg is just sanding down some doors, so we give them a quick lick of paint. They might need a little bit of welding tomorrow, I'm not sure. We also hung the exhaust on new rubbers as well, so that's all good. We got a nice exhaust pipe on there today. So we've had a very productive, successful day. We're just going to wait for some parts tomorrow. Tomorrow morning we should get 2 hub seals and 2 O-rings, and the whole lot should be able to go back together again, get bled up and be a functioning beastie. Hopefully with some doors on tomorrow as well. So yeah, great amount of engineering progress made today. It's been a bit scrap heap challenge, but we do like a challenge. So morning guys, we're on day 4. It's about lunchtime. Look, we have fully functioning control levers for both the PTO, which is this power takeoff unit here from the back of the transfer case, which actually runs a winch. So there is a winch that fits in this cavity here, which is on the other truck, so we might swap it. And we have our 2-wheel high, 4-wheel low lever in. Let's take you into the cab. So there are our levers just down there. They've been made, and we can make a nice engine cover that incorporates them, because we've got like a little square here we can use to keep the levers separate. So that's been done. We have also got our new seals for our mushroom, our air assist servo. We can't test it because unfortunately while I was welding these handles into shape, we had weld splatter go through a plastic pipe, so it's made a pinhole in a plastic pipe, so we're not picking up air pressure. Reggie's out getting a new pipe. So before we put the master cylinder on, we're going to make sure that that actuator works, i.e. this pin here comes in and out. And yeah, so what am I on now? I'm going to find some seat backs for it and put some seat backs in. And yeah, like I say, we're actually waiting on parts. I'm waiting on hub seals for inside these hubs, which is why they're not put back together. Same on the other side. We're waiting for DHL. Let's hope they get here today, because if they do and we can get the hub seals done and the whole thing bled up, that's me done until April when I come down again. And what we're going to do in April is we're going to manufacture a flatbed to go over here. And then we're going to manufacture a shorter flatbed to go here, probably with about a foot overhang maybe, so we get the maximum space. And yeah, maybe even give it a paint. And I'm thinking, instead of normal NATO green, I'm thinking really shiny bronze green would look lovely on this lorry. So yeah, we'll see how we're getting on. We're not making bad progress. It should be the last day today. So, okay guys, we thought we'd be out of here yesterday. It's not happened. What's basically happening is inside this foot valve here, which should be airtight, we have two pipes that feed the air into the foot valve. And when you depress the brake, which is this bar here, it lets it out of these. Now what's happening is we've got a little leak in here, which means that the air is going straight past the valve and in and pressurizing our master cylinder mushroom, which pushes the bar out, which applies the brakes the whole time, which was half of the problem with the brake seizing on. So when we are so nearly there now, we're going to have to pull this air unit to pieces and have a look and see what the seals are like. Hopefully we can do something about it. If not, it'll all have to go back together with the master cylinder on, and then a seal kit will have to be bought, and we'll have to do it come April time when I'm next down here. But I'm really hoping we can pull that to pieces, inspect it, check the seals out, and rectify the problem. But that's the only thing that's stopping us now. I mean, obviously without air and without a master cylinder, we can't bleed the brakes. But as it stands now, she runs, she drives, and she's got a backhand brake. So she's movable around the yard. I'm really hoping we can solve this problem today, because I want fluid in that braking system, because to have it sitting dry for 2 months is not a good plan. So we'll keep you posted and let you know. Hopefully, yeah, like I say, it should be a half day today, and we'll see how we go. We've got this wheel back together. Reggie's just putting wheel nuts on. He's going to take the other one off so he can do the oil seal. And I am just dealing with a few other bits and pieces, so I'll keep you posted. Right, so this is the foot brake air actuator. Basically what we've got is we've got air coming in here and it's not being shut off by this valve, basically, so it's leaking straight out. This is the valve. As you can see, there are score marks on that ring. So I am very gently trying to lift those score marks out with some 400 grit and a bit of WD as a lubricant. It seems to be going quite well so far. We'll see. They're certainly a lot less deep than they were. If this doesn't work, I mean, at the end of the day, this is a suck it and see type mission just to be able to move the truck. If this doesn't work, then it's seal kit time, but I won't be able to do that till April. So we're going to try and do this as a bit of bush mechanics and see whether we can get her rolling again and airtight. It might work, it might not. We'll see. There's no dramas really, because we can get a seal kit for it, unlike the other thing, and unlike the air assist servo. So keep your fingers crossed for us, and we'll see whether a little bit of bush mechanics works on this one. All right, guys. Okay, so here we are. as you can see, I've managed to get the groove out of that seal. Hang on a minute, there we go. There's no more groove in that. So I've got another one of these inside here, which I'm going to take to pieces. And I'm pretty optimistic that when it all goes back together and it's got the spring behind it, it might well make the seal again. So you never know until you try. Like I say, this is pure bush mechanics, whether this is going to work or not. If it doesn't work, we put a seal kit in it in a couple of months' time. No biggie. But hopefully this is going to work. I think the science is good. Okay, guys, so that's the other one. And you can see the scoring on it. And what we need to do is we need to get it like that again. So we'll give it a go, see what happens, see if I can lift most of the scoring out of it. And then we could be in a we could have a fighting chance then. The other thing I noticed was there is a very slight imperfection on that sealing surface. Where is it? Just where my thumbnail is. Can you see there's a little dink in there? So something scored that. So yeah, this might not solve the problem, but we'll have a look. So, fantastic news. We have a fully functioning brake system now. We've just plumbed in the master cylinder, putting the pipes the correct way round. With a tiny bit of adjustment on the main foot brake arm, this one here. We just adjusted that a tiny little bit to give us a tiny little bit of wiggle room in here. And all of a sudden, that has started functioning. So we've got no air leaks in here. That's working on this servo unit perfectly. The next stage is to bung some brake fluid through it and bleed it up. And then we're all done. And yeah, really pleased with that. What a head scratcher this vehicle has been. But everything is now back to 0 timed. So reconditioned engine, totally reconditioned braking system now that all functions. You know, come April time, the last bit will be doing, I do have a bit of welding to do on one door, and then obviously a flatbed on it. And then she will be 100% on the go. So yeah, bloody successful, and really chuffed that our bush mechanics worked on that foot valve. So yeah, happy days. Oh, I got oily lens. Yeah. So we're living with the engine, so it's a little bit noisy. That's a smiling Reed having a drive. Just dragging his high up through trees and stuff. There we go. So go straight ahead and then do an emergency start, Reed. There we go, good as an MJ. Spot on. So, everything seems to work. Let's do another circuit. I'll tell you what, stop halfway down this hill and then we'll put the handbrake on and see if it holds it on the hill. Yeah, well it locked the brakes up, didn't it? Yeah, go on then, stop it there and stick the handbrake on. Give it a moment to grab. Feet off everything. That, my friend, is a working handbrake. Excellent. And then with the handbrake on, stick it in first. Try and pull away and see if it stalls. I'll stick it in second. Yeah, she's going to stall. Definitely. Okay, cool. Do another circuit. So we picked it all up. We had to get the transmission wind up out to get into four-wheel drive, but everything's chuntering along quite nicely. Great to listen to her. Purrs away that 500 as well. No, missed it again, well done. It's really good, living on a store holding and having your own lorry racetrack. I mean, what's not to like, mate? What's not to like? Are you finding it easier to steer now it's out of 4? Yeah. Wow. Clean bit of health, mate, until we come back. Nice. Whoa. I don't know whether you're going to hear any of my audio. It is quite noisy in here. You got Robbie's tractor? It's the wrong colour though, isn't it, Rob? Brilliant. Awesome. Need to look at the electric still on this one. Needs a rewire and all the volts are 12 volt when it should be 24. So they need sorting out. But there we go. She's not binding or anything anymore. She's rolling freely. In high range again. New seats in it. Well, you've seen what we've done on it. I'm just really, really proud to keep an old girl like that on the road, to be honest, because they deserve it. They're much better than your Tesla shit. There we go. Just an opinion, but there we go.